YouTube, what's up? Scott from Semi-Pro here. Yesterday, we dropped our tier list rankings for the NFL quarterbacks. You guys crushed the like goal on that one, so we will be starting a series that will be taking place over the next 6 days. We will be doing one tier list every single day for the next 6 days. I know I promised a wide receiver video today, but unfortunately I couldn't find a good, well-made, accurate tier list for the wide receivers, so I'm going to have to make that one myself. That takes some time. Couldn't get to it today. So today we will be tier listing the NFL teams based on their outlook for 2020. Now this is a mix between how they did last season and my realistic expectations for them in 2020. So the same criteria as I did for the quarterbacks. Our tiers are elite, really good, average, and not this season. So we'll start with the Arizona Cardinals. I think this is a good team, made a lot of improvements this offseason. I like Kyler Murray, like Cliff Kingsbury. They do play in a really tough division, so they might not make the playoffs, but I think they take a lot of strides forward and are a very good team that can beat any team on any given Sunday. Next up, we've got the Falcons. I'm going to throw them in the average tier. I'm not sold on this team completely, but I really do like their skill position players and their quarterback. The offense is going to be able to move the ball. Just a lot of question marks for me to be able to move them up into the good tier, but they certainly could move up if those question marks really start to solidify themselves. Next up, we've got the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to throw them in the elite tier. Now, this is assuming that their offense works the same way that it did last season. I thought it was a little bit gimmicky, but Lamar Jackson, I think he took a lot of strides forward, obviously, last season, winning the MVP. So I'm going to assume that the Ravens can move the ball in that same way. But was that Titans game in the playoffs a sign of things to come for them? I don't know. Maybe it was, but for now, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, say that they're going to be able to keep it up. They're an elite team this season. Next up, we've got the Bills. I'm going to throw them in really good. I really like this team. Great defense, good young quarterback in Josh Allen, good running game. I think they're going to be a really good team, especially in that division. They're going to win a lot of games. Are they a serious Super Bowl contender for 2020? Maybe not, but I do think they will win a lot of games, especially in that division. Next up, we've got the Panthers. I'm going to put them in the not this year tier. They do have some stuff going for them, and they might be a little bit underrated. DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, Teddy Bridgewater is no scrub of a quarterback, so they'll be all right. But they do play, in my opinion, one of the best divisions in football with the Saints, Falcons, and Bucks. So unfortunately for the Panthers, just not this year. They are headed in the right direction, though. Next up, we've got Chicago. I'm going to put them in the average tier. They do play in kind of a weaker division. I think they might have a chance. The defense is really good. Mitch Trubisky, I don't hate him that much, to be honest. A lot of people do. I think he's okay, and he'll make some more strides forward this season. They lack a lot on the offensive side of the football, but I do think they will be an average team this season. Next up, we've got the Bengals. I'm going to throw them in not this year, just because, again, they do play in a pretty competitive division, but they are headed in the right direction. Like Joe Burrow, like Zach Taylor, not completely sold on that combo working out, or Joe Burrow on the Bengals working out, but I do think they'll be substantially better this season than they were last season, but too many holes for me to view them as a contender with the Ravens, Browns, or Steelers. Speaking of the Browns, we've now got them. I'm going to throw them in the good tier. They are a good team. I understand they've been hyped up for the past few seasons to no avail, but I really like this team. They're very deep, have an excellent roster. I like Stefanski as a coach. I do think they'll be good this season as long as they can overcome the drama, which is a big if. But right now, I'm just going to say they can, and they'll be a good team, 9-7, 10-6 range. Next up, we've got the Cowboys. I'm also going to throw them in the good tier. Dak Prescott, good quarterback, great receiving core, great offensive line. They do have some holes on the defensive side of the ball, but they're improving a little bit. I like this Dallas team, certainly in contention to win the NFC East. Next up, we've got the Broncos. I'm going to put them in the good tier as well. This is a hard one. I do think they're being slightly overhyped this season. I think they have too many holes on the offensive line to really be as good as people are saying they can be. But the skill position players and Drew Lock, I think they've got a couple things going for them there. The defense is going to be pretty good. So I feel comfortable putting them in this good tier, but they certainly could move down, maybe even up with a really good performance. But in that division, I really doubt it. Next up, we've got the Lions. I'm going to put them in the average tier. I like Matt Stafford. Matt Patricia's a good coach, but Detroit, they're not a great team. They have, like a lot of teams that I've said so far, they do just have a lot of holes. I don't think they can compete with Green Bay or Chicago in that division. Speaking of Green Bay, I'm going to put them in really good. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Won 13 games last season, really successful season for them, but we know the narratives. They kind of lucked in, or quote-unquote lucked into a lot of these wins in really close games, dropped a couple of head scratchers. Yeah, I still think they can be really good. LaFleur's a good head coach. As long as you've got Aaron Rodgers, you're a competitor. They certainly could move down, though. Not completely sold on this team, but giving them the benefit of the doubt based on what they did last season. Next up, we've got the Texans. I'm going to go ahead and put them in average tier. I really am not a fan of this team in general. I don't like their coach. I don't like their roster. I really don't like the DeAndre Hopkins trade, but as long as you have Deshaun Watson, he's going to keep you afloat. I think without him, this team is one of the worst teams in the NFL. Next up, we've got the Colts. I'm going to put them in the good tier. Great offensive line, solid defense, good running game, solid wide receiving core. They're just a very solid team all around. I don't like Phillip Rivers at the quarterback, but with that O-line and with the running game that he's going to be able to work with, I guess he's getting put in the best situation, but we'll see what happens with Rivers there. Not really sold on that fit, though. Next up, we've got the Jaguars. Not this year. I know Jaguars fans like to be salty, so I'll probably, they're a good team. They're a really good team. They're elite. They're average, I don't really care. The reality is that they just don't have that much going for them. Gardner Minshew is still a very young quarterback with a lot of flaws. Even if you do think he can develop into something special, you're kidding yourself if you're telling yourself that he's there right now. Next up, we've got the Chiefs. No-brainer, elite team, defending Super Bowl champs, great defense, great skill players. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. No-brainer. Chiefs are elite. Next up, the Chargers. Not this year for them. Went to school with Justin Herbert. I know what he is. I think he's going to struggle out of the gate in the NFL, especially with that offensive line. He had a great one at Oregon. Will not have that same great offensive line with the Chargers. I think they are just a couple years away from being a real good team. Next up, we've got the Rams. I'm going to put them in the average tier. They could be in the good tier if they were in a different division, but unfortunately, I think the Cardinals, Seahawks, and 49ers are all substantially better than them. We'll see what the Rams can do this season. Obviously, they just made the Super Bowl a couple years back, maybe a little bit of a hangover last season. Maybe they can rebound, but right now, just based off the last time I saw them, I have no choice but to put them in the average tier. Next up, we've got the Raiders. I'm also going to put them in the average tier. They certainly could move up, but there are a lot of X factors on this team, a lot of Gruden Warriors that we need to see how they play out again this season. But yeah, I do like Gruden as the coach there. They're definitely trending in the right direction, but maybe in the AFC West, this just isn't quite the year for them yet. Next up, we've got the Dolphins. Not this year, unfortunately. No matter who plays QB, Fitzpatrick or Tua, I think both of them just aren't going to will this team to the playoffs right now, but they're going in the right direction. Really like Flores as a head coach. They're building. They're making some good draft picks. I respect the Dolphins, but not this year for them. Next up is the Vikings. I'm going to put them in average. Now, I'm tempted to put them in not this year. I really think they're going to fall off a lot. They lost a lot on the defensive side of the ball. Lost Diggs. I don't think this team is all that great. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but, they might be able to float around that average mark. Next up, we've got the Pats. This is a team that literally could be in the elite tier, but they also could be, in the last tier. We don't really know what we're going to get with them. They're going to be a very interesting team to watch this season, but just for now, just because I don't know, I'm going to put them in the average tier, but certainly they could end up anywhere here. They're a complete wild card. Next up, we've got the Saints. I'm going to put them in really good. Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, solid defense, Sean Payton, they're set. They're going to be good. Next up, we've got the Giants. I'm going to put them in not this year. Like the direction they're moving in, and even as an Eagles fan, I've always been able to respect the Giants a little bit. I feel like they're the most bearable team in the division. I think Giants fans low-key kind of feel the same way about Eagles fans. Maybe we can kind of get along. We aren't that big of rivals anymore. Let's just get along. Let's both hate Dallas together. But not this year for them. A lot of people I know are picking them as a sleeper team. I definitely could see it, but I just think in the division with the Eagles and the Cowboys, they're not better than either of those teams, but we'll see with the Giants. I don't think this year's the year, though. Danny Dimes, solid quarterback. They'll be in the mix in the future. Next up, we've got the Jets. I'm going to put them in average. Sam Darnold is the reason I'm doing this. I don't like Adam Gase. Don't like their skill position players. Have a lot of holes. Offensive line got a little bit better, but I do think Sam Darnold is good enough to overcome some of that and will them to wins that they shouldn't be getting. Next up, we've got the Eagles. I think they're very similar to the Cowboys, so they obviously belong in the same tier. This is a neck-and-neck race for the division. Any reasonable fan in the NFC East will admit that. It's going to be Eagles, Cowboys this season. Which team will get the upper hand? It's going to be very, very interesting, neck-and-neck for me right now. I'm going to put the Steelers in the good tier as well. They did a lot last year with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph as the quarterback, so I assume Ben Roethlisberger, even if he is older, even if he is a bit banged up, will be an upgrade over that. Great defense. They've got a little bit going for them on the offensive side of the ball. I think they'll be a pretty good team this season. Next up, we've got the Seahawks. I'm going to throw them in really good. Russell Wilson, all I'm going to say about that. Next up, 49ers. I'm going to put them in really good as well. I know a lot of people want me to put them in elite, but I think they're just going to have a very slight drop-off this season, maybe a bit of a Super Bowl hangover to come out of the gates. They're in the division with Seattle and Arizona. It's going to be a tough stretch for the Niners this season. They certainly could be elite again, but I'm just going to make the prediction that they're going to be more in that 11 to 12 win range. Next up, we've got the Buccaneers. I'm also going to put them in really good. I think this team is being slept on a lot. I think Tom Brady makes this offense a lot better. The defense hung on to everybody from last year, and they improved a lot as a unit as the year went on. Tampa Bay is going to be a damn good team this season. Next up, we've got the Titans. I'm going to put them in good. They could be in really good, but I think last year was more of an energy thing with Tannehill that made them really good, but they certainly could be again, I guess. But good running game, good defense, good offensive line, solid quarterback in Tannehill. They're going to at least be an 8, 9, 10 win team. They're going to be in the mix. Next up, we've got the Redskins. Not this year for the Redskins, unfortunately. Like what they're doing, like Ron Rivera, but it's going to take a couple years for that to build. This team is just a mess right now. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident in this tier list. Just looking it over, I mean, there are definitely a couple teams that you could make the case for moving, but overall, I think this is pretty solid. Let me know what you guys have to say, though. This is just my opinion. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, so let me know in the comments section below. Make sure to click the thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed, and if you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button. We post awesome sports content every single day here on Semi-Pro. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what tier list you want to see next, and have a blessed rest of your day.